the day of my birthday. I went diving with my boyfriend, Oliver. Unexpectedly, just halfway through the dive, Oliver's female friend, Sophia, suddenly cramped up. To save her, Oliver forcefully took off my life jacket. In the end, he successfully brought her back to shore, but he left me alone at the bottom of the sea. Someone asked him if he should also rescue me. He nonchalantly said, "My life or death was none of his concern." But when the news of my death came, he completely broke down. I wasn't wearing a life jacket. My body involuntarily sank to the bottom. Oliver was only focused on swimming up with Sophia. I still held a glimmer of hope in my heart, imagining Oliver, that he would turn back to look at me, that he would turn around to save me, but the distance between us kept growing. Suddenly, everything went dark, yet Oliver never turned back to look at me. I feel like something is fiercely pulling at my chest. Even breathing has become unusually difficult. My body feels incredibly heavy. My limbs are twitching uncontrollably. My consciousness is gradually fading. This morning, Oliver suddenly messaged me. He wants to take me to celebrate my birthday. I'm very happy, because I had been pestering Oliver for a long time. That's why he finally agreed. But when we arrived, I realized we were going scuba diving, and Oliver's brothers were all there. Especially Sophia was there too. I asked him why he chose this place. He said, "Sophia loves diving. They're all girls, you will definitely like it too." My feelings suddenly became very complicated. I clearly told Oliver, "I'm particularly afraid of water, especially the sea." Did he forget? I'm not that easily fooled, although Oliver kept emphasizing, he and Sophia are just good brothers and pals. But I understand in my heart, their relationship is definitely more than just ordinary friends. Sophia holds a very important place in Oliver's heart. That position far exceeds mine, because of their connection to Dad. I've always had a psychological shadow regarding the sea, even when wearing a life jacket. I still feel scared when entering the water. They had already put on their gear, excitedly jumping into the water. Only I was still slowly walking on the beach. Suddenly, Oliver, who had already gone into the sea, popped up from the water. He was smiling very happily. He waved at me vigorously. "Don't worry. No matter what danger we encounter, I will rush to your side immediately. Trust me." Maybe it was his smile that moved me. I immediately decided to trust him. However, the truth is that Oliver did it to save another woman. He completely ignored my pleas. He forcibly took the life jacket off me. She was possessed by that woman. In the end, Oliver saved another woman. He thought I was a hindrance. He violently shook off my pleading hand. Oliver saved another woman without hesitation. He turned and left. He left me alone at the dark bottom of the sea, letting me die quietly. Perhaps it was unwillingness. It could also be resentment. Although I have passed away, my soul is still conscious. I see Oliver, who has already made it to shore. He is nervously holding Sophia's leg. I help her massage and relax her muscles with my hands. At the same time, I carefully ask her, "How's the pressure? Is it too heavy?" Oliver's friends are all around Sophia. They are concerned and asking about her. They are being very attentive and considerate. They seem to have completely forgotten that I am still sinking in the sea. Only Ethan mentioned me. Emily still hasn't come up after so long. What if something happened? After all, she looked quite afraid of the water just now. She hesitated for a long time and didn't dare to come down. Sophia felt unhappy as soon as she heard him say that. She spoke in a tone that was both coquettish and probing. "Ethan, when did you get so close to Emily?" Even Oliver, her official boyfriend, didn't say anything. "Why are you worrying about this? Do you like her?" A sudden strange noise erupted around. No one cares about my safety. Everyone is just making a fuss, shouting randomly. Oliver frowned. He looked very impatient. "She's just acting, trying to get my attention. She usually acts like this. She makes a big show over the smallest things in front of me. It's really quite pretentious. Her dad used to be a diving lifeguard. How could she possibly not know how to swim?" Oliver's words make me feel particularly heartbroken. So that's how he sees me. That's just how I am. I just hope he could care about me a bit more. Is that really wrong? I'm really starting to doubt it. Oliver doesn't like me at all. If he doesn't like me, then why did he pursue me in the first place? Ethan, even when teased by everyone, still stammered as he spoke. "But isn't Sophia a good swimmer? Didn't something happen underwater just now?" Fortunately, she was wearing a life jacket. Otherwise, the situation would have been really dangerous. When Sophia's name was called, she immediately widened her eyes. She looked very wronged. She questioned, "Ethan, what do you mean by that? Are you blaming me?" blaming me for being too confident, for not wearing a life jacket. But how could I have known that my legs would cramp as soon as I got in the water? My legs hurt a lot too, at that time. I need that life jacket more than Emily does. Ethan, aren't we the best of brothers? Why are you always defending Emily today? Sophia finished speaking. Then she pitifully cried in Oliver's arms. Oliver lowered his head, his face full of concern. He held Sophia even tighter. He gently comforted her. Don't cry anymore. This isn't your fault. There's nothing to cry about. Stop crying for that kind of person. It's not worth it at all. He raised his head. Coldly looking at Ethan, he said, if you really care about Emily, then don't waste time here with us. Just go find her. When you find her, I'll let her be your girlfriend. How about that? After saying that, Oliver directly picked up Sophia. He comforted her in a gentle voice. Don't be sad anymore. I ordered your favorite cake for you. Let's go back and have something sweet. Your mood will get better. Don't pay attention to those who make you unhappy. I watched Oliver walk away with Sophia. A wave of indescribable loss surged in my heart. That feeling, it was like the despair and helplessness I felt underwater before. It swept over me once again. I finally understood. Oliver does have a heart. It's just that his heart has never belonged to me. Right. The first time I met Oliver was at my father's funeral. As soon as he arrived, he naturally stood beside me. Later, he suddenly let out a cold laugh. It sounded like mockery. I was really angry. I thought it was very disrespectful to my father. I was about to retort him. The originally gloomy sky, when I turned to look at him, suddenly cleared up. A beam of sunlight shone directly on Oliver's face. It added a touch of warmth to his stern features. His red hoodie stands out in the crowd. Everyone around is wearing black. It feels oppressive. It's hard to breathe. But he wears a bright red, with a brilliant smile on his face. It draws people in unconsciously. Immersed in it, in an instant, he walked into my heart, dispelling the gloom within me, bringing a touch of warmth. Since then, Oliver often invited me to go shopping, eat, and watch movies together. We quickly confirmed our romantic relationship. One time after drinking, he coaxed and tricked me into being intimate with him. Since then, his attitude began to change. He became increasingly indifferent towards me. His attitude also grew more impatient. One time we had a fight. He shouted at me in frustration. Emily, being with you is so boring. We can't connect at all. What's the point of continuing like this? It's better to break up sooner, to avoid breaking up with Oliver. I tried to integrate into his social circle. I made an effort to find topics to talk about. I wanted him to feel that being with me was fun and meaningful. It was then I met Sophia in her life. There are always many boys around her. She says those boys are just her good friends, and Oliver is one of her good friends too. She shares the same drink with these friends and eats from the same bowl. When she's on her period, she lets these friends warm her belly with their hands. She also leans on her friends' shoulders from time to time. Being cute and flirty, he even sleeps in the same bed with those good friends. Oliver has done the same thing with her, and right in front of me. They seem to think it's no big deal, but I really can't accept it. One afternoon, I finally couldn't hold it in anymore. I questioned Oliver emotionally. You are just ordinary friends. Why do things that go beyond the boundaries of friendship? Don't you think that's excessive? Oliver responded, Emily, the situation between Sophia and me. It's not your place to comment. You feel disgusted only because you're overthinking it. If you really can't stand it, we can break up. You don't have to make a scene here. The words he casually said felt like a knife stabbing straight into my heart, causing me unbearable pain. Regarding my sudden involvement in this matter, Sophia was clearly unwilling as well, and it seemed she understood very well how to speak to her advantage, to achieve her goals faster. She would complain to Oliver in a spoiled tone. Oliver, why did you bring her again? Didn't we agree that this is a gathering for us brothers? You brought a woman here. What's going on here? There was a time when I really couldn't hold back. I just replied to her, really, you're not feeling well? Then please leave. The atmosphere suddenly became awkward. Everyone's gaze immediately focused on Oliver. Everyone was waiting to see the drama unfold. Oliver didn't disappoint them. He suddenly grabbed my arm. He forcefully pulled me outside. He coldly said, "Get away." Then the door slammed shut. I stood there dazed outside the door. I could still hear laughter coming from inside. I also heard Oliver say, "I've been wanting to find an excuse to make her leave. She's been bothering me all day. It's really so annoying. If I had known it would be like this. I shouldn't have come today. My life could end up here at that time. I shouldn't have sought that bit of warmth if I had let go earlier. maybe I wouldn't have died today. Oliver, congratulations, you're free now. You don't have to worry about me bothering you anymore. A week later, the fishermen at sea discovered my body. The fishermen brought the body back to shore. They immediately reported it to the police. When the police arrived at the scene, they set up a red cordon around the area. This incident caused quite a stir. It made the social news that same day. After Ethan saw the news, he quickly handed his phone to Oliver. I anxiously asked him, "Have you been in contact with Emily these past few days?" The news said the female body that was recovered. It can't be her, right? Oliver was absent-minded, not even glancing at it. He was completely focused on kneeling down, trimming Sophia's nails. Once he finished trimming her nails, he casually said, "Finally, she hasn't been bothering me these days. If I were to reach out to her again, then am I not the one with a problem? Don't worry, it absolutely can't be her. What are the odds of that happening? This news might all be fake. Emily does this just to get my attention. She often does this kind of thing. Not only does he not believe that I'm dead, he's also spreading false rumors about me behind my back. How could I have any feelings for someone like that, who would joke about something like this? You should make a call quickly. I'm begging you, big brother. If something happens to her, we'll all be implicated. We'll all become accomplices who stood by and did nothing." Maybe Ethan's words made Oliver a bit anxious. He finally took his phone out of his pocket. Just as Oliver was about to dial, Sophia suddenly grabbed his hand tightly. She pressed his hand against her chest. With a pleading tone, she said, "Oliver, don't make the call just yet. My chest suddenly hurts a lot. Can you help me rub it?" Oliver just nodded. Ethan became anxious. He pointed at Sophia and said emotionally, "Even if you want Oliver to revolve around you all day, take the opportunity to break them up. It also depends on the situation. Emily can't swim, and she's afraid of the sea. If something really happened to her, none of us can be absolved of responsibility. No one can bear that responsibility." Amidst the rising cheers of the crowd, Oliver's expression turned grim. He said coldly, "You know Emily so well. You even know she can't swim. I don't know any of these things. It seems like you two have some special relationship already. Let me tell you, don't try to scare us with those frightening words. Is her life really that important, even if something really happened to her? It has nothing to do with us. You think everyone is like you two, enjoying playing tricks behind the scenes. If you want to make a call, go do it by yourself. Don't disturb us." After hearing this, I smiled helplessly. Is my feelings, even my life, so insignificant in his eyes? Ethan clearly knows I can't swim, and yet he's afraid of the sea. It's just because I mentioned it in the group before. Right, it's that simple. It's Oliver who thinks too poorly of me. In that group, Oliver is also there. As a result, he cares about me less than he does for Ethan, whom he barely knows. That message, I even specially sent it to Oliver privately. It's really ridiculous. Ethan seems particularly worried that something might happen to me, afraid of being held legally responsible because of it. Even though Oliver said such harsh words, he still chose to endure. "Okay, I'll make the call. Send me Emily's number." I sent the number without hesitation. He said with a hint of sarcasm, "What are you pretending to be here? How could you possibly not have her phone number under everyone's urging?" Ethan called my phone. Ethan called several times. No one answered. He looked pale. A heaviness settled in my heart. "This is bad. Emily might really be in trouble," Oliver said coldly. "Keep pretending. Hurry and pray. If Emily isn't dead, I will make her life more miserable than death." The police quickly found my family through DNA testing. The day my mom came to identify my body, she collapsed to the ground and cried until she fainted. In just 3 years, both my dad and I were gone. The two closest people to my mom both left her one after another. Watching her collapse on the ground, I really want to hug her again. It's my fault for not being there for Mom. If I hadn't fallen for Oliver, maybe none of this would have happened. After hearing this news, friends and family gathered at my home to express their condolences. I didn't expect it. Oliver also came. He was dragged here by his father while my mom was going through my phone. She saw a photo of Oliver. She realized he was my boyfriend. Her face clearly showed a reluctant expression. My mom knew I went out with Oliver this time. She rushed forward and grabbed Oliver by the collar. She shouted at him in a hoarse voice, "My daughter was perfectly fine when she left with you. How did she come back in trouble? You tell me. You tell me." Oliver sneered and nonchalantly said, "Whether your daughter lives or dies has nothing to do with me. It's not my fault she got hurt." My mom heard this, and in anger, she slapped him. This slap was particularly hard. His right cheek immediately swelled up. Oliver couldn't stand this. He lifted his leg as if to leave. His father kicked him again. He directly knelt on the ground. He is kneeling, still looking at his father with a defiant expression. "Dad, what are you doing? How can you side with outsiders?" Oliver's father shot him a fierce glare. Then he deeply bowed to my mother. "I'm sorry. It's my fault for not educating my child properly. I'm sorry for Michael. Michael is my father's name. I've remembered." Oliver's dad and my dad were comrades in the army. After they retired, they both became scuba lifeguards. So they have always had a good relationship. At my dad's funeral last time, he was also present. I said to him, "Dad, why are you apologizing? I didn't do anything wrong at all. Besides, that Michael has a history of committing rape. Why should our family apologize to such a person like father, like daughter? That statement is not wrong at all. Even if Emily wants to see me so badly, she shouldn't resort to such methods." Oliver is still shouting loudly. His father raised his hand and slapped him hard again. He felt that wasn't enough to vent his anger. His father simply took out his belt and hit him. "You child. Your Uncle Michael sacrificed himself to save others. It's all in the news reports. Who told you to speak so recklessly? When did you get together with Uncle Michael's daughter? I had no idea at all. Speak up. The death of your Uncle Michael's daughter has nothing to do with you. Speak up." Oliver is still unwilling to accept it. He grabbed the belt from his father's hand. He stood up. He looked at my mom with a face full of resentment. "Say it? That's all a lie. What they said in the news is all false. Doing the right thing for the wrong reasons is fake. Rape is real. The drowning incident is fake. It's just true that they want to get my attention." Oliver finished speaking and hurriedly left. I'm already exhausted. I don't want to chase after him anymore. In the remaining time, I just want to quietly be by my mother's side. I can't control my own soul. Oliver came to find Sophia again. He accompanied Sophia to the hospital for the abortion. While waiting, Oliver tightly held Sophia's hand. With a face full of guilt, he said, "Sophia, it's all my fault. I'm sorry for you. If I had always been by your side, you wouldn't have been hurt again." He sighed. Then he said, "It's all Emily's fault. She always clings to me. If it weren't for her, you wouldn't have." Sophia's eyes became wet, gently leaning on Oliver's shoulder. "With you by my side. That's really nice." After the abortion surgery, he was busy taking care of Sophia. He kept asking her, "How do you feel? Does it hurt? If you feel uncomfortable, you must tell me right away." After all, an abortion is not a small matter. After sending Sophia home, he hurried to the supermarket. While shopping, he kept looking at his phone. He was searching for the best supplements for women after an abortion. Before long, his shopping cart was full. He has never been this considerate towards me. All this time, his attitude towards me has been terrible. A year ago, I was also pregnant. This is Oliver's. When I first told him the news, he was obviously very happy. He hugged me happily. He spun me around several times, even on that day. I searched for a lot of information about pregnancy on my phone, but it was only one day. Just one day. He forced me to get an abortion. I wanted to ask him to let me keep the baby. He saw through my thoughts and immediately dispelled my idea. He said, "You are not fit to have my child." On the day of the abortion, I was particularly scared inside. The doctor suggested that it would be best to have someone accompany me. I called Oliver. I wanted him to come and keep me company. He said, "Miss, you're just being dramatic. This kind of minor surgery also needs someone to accompany you. I'm a bit busy right now. I might not be able to make it, by the way. Make sure to let me know when you're done." This kind of thing. I didn't dare to tell my mom. After the abortion surgery, I squatted by the flower bed in the hospital. I cried and called Oliver. As soon as the call connected, he asked, "Did everything go well?" I will answer, "It's already taken care of." At that time, I have a lot to say. I want to tell him. The procedure is not as simple as he thinks. After it's done, the body will feel very uncomfortable. I want to ask him, why does he think I'm unworthy of having his child? I also want to say, I have already terminated the pregnancy, as you said. Can you be a little nicer to me, even just a little bit? That would satisfy me greatly. I still have a lot to say, but the call was suddenly disconnected, without any lingering feelings. In the end, I couldn't say anything at all. It turns out that the difference between love and indifference is really so great. I'm just too foolish. Can't read people accurately. Oliver is carrying 2 large bags of supplements. He has returned to Sophia's house. He skillfully took out the keys from his pocket. He easily opened the door. After walking into the living room, he placed the items on the table. I was just about to say something. At that moment, a girl's moan suddenly echoed in the air. Then, a deep-voiced man said, "Don't be shy. We've known each other well enough. No, I just had an abortion today. The doctor said I shouldn't have sex for the next few days. It's not good for my health. You went for an abortion, and Oliver went with you." That's right. Who else could it be? You didn't have money at that time. Looking back now, it feels quite interesting. He really is easy to fool. Do you remember a few years ago? We were playing in the sea. As a result, the lifeguard mistook us for attempting to take our lives. He jumped in to save us. Later, that lifeguard unexpectedly passed away. It even made the local news. At that time, I happened to be short on money. I was in a hurry to get an abortion, so I deceived Oliver. I told him that lifeguard dragged me into the sea and raped me. I'm just pregnant. Since then, he listens to me obediently. He behaves particularly submissively. And his girlfriend, I knew long ago that she couldn't swim, but she pretended to have a cramp on purpose. I didn't expect that. Oliver immediately took off her life jacket and gave it to me. Haha, I still find it particularly funny when I think back on it now. You little rascal. You really make me laugh non-stop in the room. Their laughter sounded both harsh and arrogant. I feel it's unfair for my father. Why do kind people always die young, while bad people can live so freely? Oliver heard all of this outside. He groggily opened the door and came out. I don't know why. He ran to my father's grave. I stood silently in front of my father's grave for a long time. In the end, I bowed my head 3 times heavily on the ground. He said, "Uncle, I'm sorry to you. I'm sorry to your daughter. I'm truly sorry." It's unclear how many times he said sorry in the end, but what does it matter now that he's doing all this? Who would care about such a trivial apology from him? After leaving the cemetery, he came to my house again. As soon as my mom opened the door, she saw him. She thought he was there to cause trouble. She went straight back inside and threw my death certificate in his face, if possible. I wish more than you that my lovely daughter were still alive. My husband was upright throughout his life. I don't know where you heard these rumors, but the deceased has passed. Please show some respect. Oliver's hands were shaking badly. He picked up my death certificate from the ground. He read the contents several times. In the end, he suddenly knelt down in front of my mother. Her voice trembled. She spoke with a choked voice. "Auntie, I'm sorry, I spoke incorrectly before. Can you let me see Emily one more time, please? Just let me see her once. I want to know if she is suffering. Late feelings are really not worth mentioning. This time I've decided not to see him again. My mother thinks the same way as I do." She pushed Oliver out the door in one go, no matter how he pleaded with my mother outside. My mother just wouldn't let him in. He's at my doorstep. He knelt there from morning till night. He finally left. He looked absent-minded, wandering aimlessly on the street. I had to keep following him. He walked under a pedestrian bridge. He saw an old lady holding a fortune-telling sign. She spotted Oliver from a distance and waved at him, seeing the old lady working so hard to attract business. It felt quite uncomfortable inside, but Oliver had told me before. He doesn't believe in ghosts or gods. He thinks those who read fortunes are all frauds. The result was beyond my expectation. He actually stopped in his tracks. The old lady seemed very happy, quickly went over to ask him, "Young man, what do you want to know?" Oliver was silent for a moment. He asked, "Is there a way to talk to someone who has passed away, or to see them again?" The old lady frowned and said, "Young man, how could you have such thoughts if you really saw them? Wouldn't you be afraid?" Oliver licked his dry lips, his eyes filled with anticipation. "I'm not afraid at all. As long as I can see her one more time, even if she wants to take me away, I would willingly go." The old lady asked Oliver to write down his birth date and time. She took a look and said, "Young man, your situation is indeed a bit tricky. However, you are quite lucky to have met me. I promise, tonight, you will be able to talk to the person you have in mind." The old lady picked up the paper with Oliver's name on it. She examined it closely, made a few gestures. Then, she used a torch to set the paper on fire. She poured the ashes of the burned paper into a cup of water. "Young man, drink this cup of water at midnight. You will be able to speak." Oliver took the item. He gave all the money in his pocket to the old lady. Back home, he didn't turn on the lights, holding that bottle of water in his hand. He sat still until midnight, without moving. As the clock struck 12, he immediately picked up that bottle of water and drank it without hesitation. About a minute later, he tentatively tried to speak. His voice was filled with regret. "Emily, are you listening?" No one answered. After a while, he spoke again. "Emily, At that time, I was deceived. I really thought your father was a rapist. I was too young back then. I was only focused on avenging her. I originally intended to get close to you on purpose, to let you experience the feeling of being hurt. But Emily, you are too kind. I really couldn't bear to treat you that way. So, I slowly approached you. Later, we started dating. You were pregnant with my child at that time. I was especially happy. I was really happy. But I wasn't smart enough. I was misled. I couldn't see the truth. I forced you to have an abortion. Our first child was lost like that. Actually, I had already fallen in love with you. I was just too cowardly. I didn't dare to admit it. I thought we could be together forever. I'm sorry for what happened to you. If I had known things would turn out like this, I would have treated you well. We could have gotten married early and had a lovely child to build a happy little family. But now everything is over, all ruined by my own hands. It turns out all of this was fake. They all acted to deceive me. Even the little warmth I felt at the funeral was also fake. This was all a trap they set. Thinking back carefully, it definitely feels off. How could anyone wear such bright colors to a funeral? And how could someone laugh out loud at a funeral? He never took me seriously at all, and he never respected my father. Emily, are you listening? If you are listening, can you give me a sign? As a result, no one paid attention to him. He thought to himself, things like fortune-telling, it's all a lie. I did so many bad things to her before. How could she possibly be willing to listen to me? Oliver did not receive a response. He buried his head deeply into his knees in pain. Amid a sad cry, after a few days, he comes to my house every day, persisting more and more each time. My mom is firmly against him participating, because my mom has always been unable to forget the excessive things he said. Don't let him in. Oliver has been kneeling at the door until the funeral is completely over. Seeing his frustrated expression, I did not feel relieved. On the contrary, I feel that this is still not enough. Since then, Oliver often comes to my house. He wants to help my mom with something, but my mom never lets him help. That day, my mom really couldn't take it anymore. She said, if you really care about Emily, we should help him find the real murderer. Otherwise, how could Emily feel at ease? Oliver replied in a low voice, okay, Aunt, I promise to personally send the murderer who killed Emily to jail. Oliver pretended to be nonchalant, reintegrating into that group of people. He continued to play the role of one of Sophia's many brothers. He obeyed her every word. He showed no signs of weakness. On the evening a week later, waiting until everyone had drunk enough, he tied up the whole group. Sophia was among them. Then, he took the evidence he had collected over the past few days and went directly to the police station to turn himself in. When those who were tied up woke up, they all accused him of being crazy because Oliver had also voluntarily surrendered. In the end, they were all sentenced. Sophia received the heaviest sentence, but that was not enough. Far from enough. I and my father lost our lives, while they only lost a few years of freedom. Years later, all these people have been released from prison. They've started over so easily. After Oliver got out of prison, he went straight to the cemetery. My dad's grave is right next to mine. He knelt before me and my dad once again. He began to confess his wrongdoings, but my dad and I just found him annoying. We wished he would just leave quickly. Since then, he came every day. Until 2 years later, the day Sophia was released, Oliver said something puzzling. Emily, wait for me. I'll soon be able to truly be by your side forever. Then he bent down and affectionately kissed my tombstone. That made me feel very uncomfortable. Sophia was just released in the morning. In the afternoon, she was kidnapped. The one who kidnapped her was Oliver. He drove at high speed, taking Sophia to the beach where my dad and I once nearly drowned. Sophia was terrified and in a daze. It started incoherently. Oliver, are you crazy? Why did you bring me to the seaside? I really know I was wrong. Please give me a chance. Okay, Sophia shouted loudly. Oliver, are you crazy? If you want to die, go ahead yourself. Don't involve me. She struggled hard, but she couldn't break free from his control. To ensure absolute certainty, Oliver tightly bound them together with a rope. His expression was emotionless. He dragged Sophia step by step toward the depths of the sea. Sophia, driven by her survival instinct, struggled desperately to save herself. Oliver showed no intention of fighting for survival at all. The two of them just pulled at each other, slowly being swallowed by the sea. At the moment of about to lose consciousness, Oliver smiled. He smiled with great satisfaction. Emily, I can finally come to find you without any worries, but all I want to reply to him is 4 words. Don't disturb me.